Hello, this is the Bunnycast coming your way. Today we talk about ComicCon, the upcoming event where all nerds gather together in one humongous blob. Joining us today would be the Cute Ninja. Say hello.
Hello.
And we'll be discussing more things to do about ComicCon. So stay tuned, listen up, and keep your ears pinned.
I say comic, you say con. Comic.
Con.
Comic.
Con.
Con.
Did you say con?
Con!
This is the Bunnycast Network.
Okay, my mom is not into sci-fi to the fact that she would tell me as a child that sci-fi and fantasy stuff were a waste of time and money. I've learned differently since then. But anyway, one time my mom came over from Phoenix and she was spending time with Freya while Chris and I were out of the house. And we had set her up on our Netflix. Now, on our Xbox, Freya has her own account.
I remember this.
And with her having her own account, Mom thought Freya's Netflix account was totally separate from everyone else's movies. So one of the first things that came up was the recently watched, and she saw this interesting looking picture, and so she said, okay, we'll click on that since it's part of Freya's list, thinking it's one of Freya's shows. And it clicks on, and it plays the first episode that was next to be played, which I had actually watched but accidentally started watching again. And it was a Torchwood episode, the one with the cannibals in it. It starts out with a woman dying brutally in her car. And my mom looks at Freya, and Freya's having her eyes covered with her hands. And my mom looks at her and says, I feel the same way. Let's turn it off.
Salutations. Hello. Hi. You can hear a reverb, and we'll get to why that is in a minute. I am your hostess, Dame Helen, the LeatherClad. Joining us today is our usual componentry compadres. Sir, Lord, what is your title?
The Honourable Right Reverend Lord Sir Killerfish of the Keenfans.
Right, that.
Konnichiwa.
Just call it Pete.
And you can hear Squato. And also joining us is our resident hedgehog, the Cute Ninja. Say hello.
Hello.
Also known as Jolene. And that brings us to the reason why you're hearing the echo and the reverb and all that kind of good stuff. I'm on my mic. The Cute Ninja's on her mic. She's about 5 feet away from me. So our mics are picking up each other. So
there's no wall.
Yes, there's no wall. You're going to be picking up some echo because we don't have those nice, awesome sound-canceling microphones that you see on better podcasts, and we'll get to how you can help out with that later on. And speaking of the podcast, we are the Bunnycast.
We are?
We are.
How did that happen?
And we're known.
We're
known.
In 2006... a bunch of people got together, hey, wait a minute, that's us, and said, hey, let's do a podcast. And we said, hey, that sounds like fun. So the Bunnycast is the official podcast of the Bunny community. The Bunny community is the official fan community of El Shive. The Bunnycast has nothing to do with El Shive. El Shive has nothing to do with the Bunnycast. Don't think too hard about it. It will make your head implode.
Too late.
And speaking of El Shive is a webcomic created by Dan Shive. It is, at this point, a fairly well-known comic on the interwebs, featured in such diverse and illustrious places as tvtropes.com, is it? Also, you can find the forums at community.910cmx.com. You can also see some legacy forums where the comic used to be hosted, and its forums used to be hosted by going to forums.keenspot.com. Thank you. I almost said Keenfans, and I know that's wrong. .com. Anyways, blah blah blah. Wow, I'm tired today. Yes, I am running on an energy drink, but without enough sleep to make it worthwhile. So I sound awake, I look awake, I act awake, but I'm really in bed asleep.
So, like I am pretty much 99% of the time in
Yes.
these casts anyway. You're in fine company.
I name dropped. I should point out, I name dropped us at Smash today. More than a few people knew of Bunnycast.
Woo!
We're slightly famous.
We're setting memes. We're known on very exclusive, highly niche markets. Yes!
More than 5
And now to make
people know who I am.
And now, to make people feel the stupid, just go on to any of the Harry Potter trending topics and just read that for about 30 seconds before letting your brain melt down your nose because of how stupid it is.
How did you know my pre-show thing to do?
Okay, let's get to. We're not gonna cover that much news today for a reason we'll get into in a couple minutes. Comic news. Intern. There's an intern. Did you know there's an intern?
Yes.
Chia, I believe her name is. Chia?
I call her intern, and she will be my intern.
You just want a minion, don't you?
I do want a minion. I had a kid thinking I would have a minion. Boy, was I wrong. So
it tends to work the other way around, I found.
yes, it does. For those who have not been following the comic, right now Dan is doing his annual Q&A, and basically
he does one after every storyline now, it appears. So.
Yeah, which turns out to be about once a year. Hey,
he's become cunningly cunning about this whole thing.
Right now. During the Q&A, in previous Q&A, he tends to do these themes. One Q&A was a beach party theme. This particular Q&A, he's doing a talk show theme. Another previous Q&A was a Mythbusters theme. So far, this particular theme, he's making it work. It's working very well. I would invite everybody to go and take a look at this theme in question, because he does it very well, and it's very clear his inspiration is Conan, because he makes a very direct and obvious Conan O'Brien reference, and I think it's just the comic previous.
Conan O'Brien, wasn't he the fellow who dressed up in a loincloth and carried a sword and went around going by Crom a lot? Or have I got the wrong Conan there?
Well,
you have, because he's more viewed Crumb as
to hell with you.
So,
You're thinking of Conan the Barbarian. Conan the Barbarian.
See, it's so very easy to get the two mixed up because they look exactly alike.
Arnold Schwarzenegger looks nothing like Conan O'Brien.
I don't know. You put a redheaded wig on Schwarzenegger, and maybe.
Well, no. Arnold Schwarzenegger is so versatile. He plays so many roles. He plays an Austrian-sounding spy, and an Austrian-sounding pilot, and sounding governor. Oh wait, that wasn't a role, was it?
You do know the last bit I was going to say was in America.
Okay, so let's just do a little bit of fundraising here before we move on. Those of you
Give
who
us money. Give us money.
give us money now. Give us money now. We are of course seeking donations, and we have had some bunnies donate. So thank you very much for that. You are helping to bring this podcast into profitable status, one donation at a time. Again, for those of you who are donating, let us know when you donate whether or not you'd like to be acknowledged for the donation on the podcast. We will be glad to say thank you publicly to your face, if you will. For those who have, say, an interest that meets the bunny community's needs, we are looking for sponsors. We have no shame in that regard. So we would love to have you sponsor us. To give you an example of the kind of thing you can expect when you do sponsor us, I'm just going to throw in a little plug for my own business here, as by way of providing a sort of a sample offering what we will do if you do choose to sponsor us. So here we go. So speaking of computers, yes, we were. If you are having a problem with your computer, you can certainly go to a local technician who has a business card and a cell phone, and will offer to fix your computer for a nice low rate. But what if you've got an internet connection, but you, for whatever reason, can't, say, access a certain web page, or everything's coming up in a funny font, and you just need somebody to get in real quick for a fairly low price? Well, we have an option for you, and there's a company called Naked Computers. They do remote tech support. This means that they can do tech support to literally anywhere in the world. So if you need a technician to come into your computer, let's say that the only thing that's wrong is you can't get your Word document to display a font correctly. Well, hey, all you need is somebody that has access to your operating system. So why not contact Naked Computers? They will get into your computer using software that accesses only with your permission and asks permission every single time. When they do that, it's using a 128-bit SSL encrypted connection. So all of your data is secure, and the privacy policy for Naked Computers is one of the best in the industry. For the listeners to the Bunnycast, they are offering a discount. Just let us know when you call up that you heard about us on the Bunnycast, and we'll go ahead and knock $5 off of the hourly rate of $35 an hour. So only $30 to have a technician come straight into your computer and work on everything that you're doing. And hey, how can you possibly beat that price unless you happen to have your cousin working on it? And we all know how having your relative fix your computer tends to work out for people.
You can't figure out how they've switched all the settings, and they've mucked around with the background, and everything's pink now. And
so nakedcomputers.biz to get remote tech support.
I heard they employ little magical imps to travel along the internet and do all the work for you.
Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about ComicCon now. And unfortunately,
just a little bit.
Our guest had to address a problem situation with the child, so we're going to fill some time with other things. I almost said Killerfish when I was trying to talk to Squato. I'm sorry, guys. Squato, you wanted to talk about this other convention that you had attended.
Yes, today was actually when they held. Just a second, I've got to reshift. Sorry. Yeah, today I went to Smash. Now, basically, the shortest version for Smash is that it's more of an anime, manga type of, sort of Japanese type of thing, based convention that's held in Sydney. And they try to get as international guests when they can, but it's more of a one-day affair, so say just a Saturday. And because of that, it tends to be more of a smaller scale, but it was more intimate type thing. For instance, because two of the guests today were Nebushe, okay, I'm sorry, I can't pronounce his name. The one that did XL Saga. was the director of XL Saga.
Is it that name you sent me on the chat?
Yes.
Let's see how bad we're going to pronounce this.
Oh, where did it go? It was right here.
Shinichi Watanabe.
Yes. Because I know some people refuse to have his name be pronounced as Nenashe, because I know I'm mispronouncing that. I have not had too much sleep, sorry.
Yeah, I know.
But because one of the things they do with it is that, as I said, it's nice and friendly, so that when they have the panels, you can actually sit very close to the guests. You can actually ask questions directly to them. The guests are generally happy, and you can do the signings. They're free signings.
Okay. Well,
and so that's with the guests, things like that. With the other guest that was there was someone we previously had, Little Karibo.
Hoorah! Yes, awesome guest. One of the better recordings we've ever done. So, well, let's talk about it. Little Karibo. He's American, isn't he?
No, he's British.
He's British? Oh, my bad. Tells you how tired I am. Oh boy.
He's the other quiet British guy we had on the podcast.
Yes. So, Little Karibo is British, and he went to Australia for a convention, which is usually where people would go to ComicCon. But ComicCon's been losing a little bit of luster for those kinds of people recently, in the last couple of years, because it is so bloody hard to get into.
Mm-hmm.
Jolene, why don't you go ahead and get back on mic, because this is definitely where... So, ComicCon is aware that it's getting more and more difficult to get into. And they've started taking steps to make it more accessible, easier for people to get into. Which is going to result in, unfortunately, people who have been able to reliably get into Comic-Con for years, and they may not be able to get into Comic-Con this next year, or if they are getting into Comic-Con this next year, they may not be able to get into the one after that, for the simple reason that Comic-Con does want new people to come in. Now, San Diego...
Yeah, because I read one of the things that doing for people that are actually there. The old tactic was to the people line up. They realised that basically causes too much congestion, amongst other things. So for the signings, you actually have to put your name into a lottery system, and they will. If you're one of the ones drawn out, you can get your thing signed.
Well, actually, they've been doing that for the last, I want to say, 3 to 5 years. But
they're rolling it out, all of it. They've previously sort of focused just on a few from what they've seemed to be saying. And what some fans are unhappy with that change.
They're doing it just for the huge names where hundreds of people are standing in line and they can only do so much time for the actors being there or have so many autographs done, because they get such an overwhelming number of people who want to be in line. And I know what it's like to be in line for someone for 4 hours, almost be to the front of the line, and then something happens where those actors have to leave. My own experience was I was in line for Mark Hamill, who was Luke Skywalker, and a bunch of other voice actors who are huge, like Pinky and the Brain, the Animaniacs, Gary Owens, all sorts of people like that. I was going to get their autograph. I was just a few people away. And Angelina Jolie walks into the room.
Damn that
Everyone goes nuts. I nearly got crushed by the fans pushing their way through the line for the voice actors to get to Angelina Jolie's line, which was right next door to us.
Yeah. One thing that is happening this year, at least, and you'll notice this if you take a close look at the schedule, is the reduction of the Hollywoodification of Comic-Con.
Because a lot of the movies are abandoning Comic-Con.
Well, it's not just that. It's that Comic-Con's aware that this drift has been happening, and a lot of the fans of Comic-Con have said, we don't like what's happening. And so there's been a conscious effort to return Comic-Con to a more comics-focused base. So, yeah, there's still shows.
Which, unfortunately, the comics companies are not really bothering with that as like that still this year.
It depends on the comics vendor, but some of them are noticing. And,
no, I mean like DC and Marvel.
Okay, DC and Marvel, so what? I mean, seriously, DC just had to reboot most of its major franchises, not all of them, because they weren't getting enough sales because they had spun themselves into too niche of a like Batman. If somebody goes and sees The Dark Knight and says, "I want to read a Batman series," and they go around the time The Dark Knight hit Netflix, then they would have encountered, okay, here's Batman. Who's this playing Batman? It's not Bruce Wayne. This doesn't match the movie. Where's Bruce Wayne? And if they bothered to do any research at this point, they would find out that Bruce Wayne is actually 100 years in the past in this weird time jaunt through, and it's a ticking time bomb. He's going to blow up when he reaches the present day, and it's like, what?
Hang on, that just completely confused me.
That's the point. So they spun themselves into this story series that got so tightly wound up inside baseball with the DC universe that there was no way you were ever going to be able to make sense of it. Okay, so you have Superboy, who kills Superboy and then lands in our universe somehow and convinces the writers not to pick on him so much, and then he turns into this whiny brat.
I'll kill you to death.
Yeah, exactly. And so it's like it got so mind-numbingly confusing. It is a very good reason that they called the most recent big universe-spanning story arc Infinite Crisis, because every time they wind up doing this, they wind up with so many characters that are so widespread across multiple timelines and multiple storylines that intertwine together, and you have to know everything about the Justice League to figure out Batman, to figure out Green Lantern, and oh, by the way, you might want to brush up on at least half the history of the Flash in order to get any of that.
That's why that was part of the point when I made when I reviewed Under the Red Hood last time, which was that they basically, because the story they wanted it to be a big thing, but they stuffed it up because it was wrapped in with all this other. Yeah. Well, I'll say it. Sorry, Jolene. It was crap because it was it 52 or was it the Final whatever it was.
Countdown
the one that
to Final Crisis.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one. Everyone hated that entire storyline. The whole year wasted of things. But that was a good story. Made an awesome film from it.
Yeah. Now with DC and Marvel, I don't care. I mean, they're going to make money. It's like asking if Wizards of the Coast is going to make money if they don't show up at Comic-Con. They're going to make money. They're freaking Magic the freaking Gathering.
And Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah.
The flip side argument as to why they should be there is because it's pretty much that those two are the comic industry pretty much nowadays because they've taken over everyone else.
No.
They haven't taken over my brain yet.
Okay, as somebody who is part of the comics industry in America, DC and Marvel are almost not the comics industry. They're almost. It's like if you were to say Disney is a major component of the entertainment industry for Hollywood. It's like you'd be if you were in LA, you'd be laughed in your face, and everywhere else in America, you'd be like, Disney, really? Sure, Disney as a company owns several other companies that make up a large swath of the industry, but those companies are their own entities for the purposes of guiding and directing entertainment. And let's pretend that DC or Marvel owned a big enough chunk to say that. They're still not the entire industry. They're not even a majority of the industry. They're only a portion of the industry. The major parts of the industry right now it's starting to move online into webcomics. All the big names, they're starting to say, okay, you know what, DC and Marvel aren't helping me anymore. They're not taking on the stories that I want to write. They're not doing the characters that I want to write. They're not letting me have the creative freedom that I want to have. So they're going with independent labels, or they're just taking it online and going at their own route.
Which was fairly similar to what happened with the comics industry in the 80s.
So we're experiencing a fracturing of the comic industry again, which is fine. That's what you want to happen. Every so often, things have got to get freshened up. Point is that Comic-Con is addressing its original core audience again, with an intentional looking towards comics and, to a lesser extent, manga, to return to its roots. This means that there's going to be less Hollywoodification, so hopefully, knock on wood, we're not going to get these huge ass throngs of idiots that are only there to see the one superstar and not care anything about anything else. The whole thing about the crowd press of Angelina Jolie was kind of like the Twilight twins. You had all these tween and early teen girls that the only reason they were at Comic-Con was because Comic-Con happened to be hosting some panels about Twilight. And you can make the argument that Twilight ruined Comic-Con, and many people have.
Twilight ruined everything.
Twilight ruined Twilight. The actual Twilight when the sun goes down, it's been ruined by Twilight the book series.
Maybe it was all that glitter.
You had to go there, didn't you?
Yes.
But your point is true, because look at the films that are actually going to be at Comic-Con this year, and there is films, but they're films. They are not like you're saying there, like Twilight or anything like that. They're ones like, say, Captain America. Well, not so much Captain America, but the Avengers film will be there. And the big thing with that is not because it's the fact that it's going to be driven by it's the Avengers, they're going to have all these people there. It's because it's got a lot of unknown stars and the people, well, relatively unknown people still that are the stars of the film, amongst other things.
I'm having a brain fart here because you just skipped from Twilight to the Avengers, and those two facts have just merged together into my head.
No, pull out!
It's too late. I can hold it. Ah!
Have you heard of the Knights of the Badassum?
No.
It's a new movie that is, let's see.
Okay.
It's an indie movie that's actually going to be shown at Comic-Con.
Okay, so here's the premise. You have some LARPers that meet regularly. One of them accidentally summons a genuine succubus.
As you do.
You've got a bunch of geeky, possibly virgin people who dress up in funny outfits who've summoned a sex demon.
Yeah, and now it's up to them to save the world.
And people are dying at this LARP gathering.
I foresee this being an excellent B movie. Yes, I do. So, yeah, in any case, I don't know that Comic-Con's ever going to return to the heyday of when in 2007 was, I think, the last year that pretty much anybody could get in if you just showed up. The hardest part was just getting your plane ticket or getting to San Diego. Now, of course, the hardest part is getting your Comic-Con ticket. And believe you me, I am very aware of this because every single year, right around this time, I get a dozen people saying, "Hey, that Comic-Con thing that nobody's been able to get into for 6 months, do you have any extra tickets?" Exactly.
Yeah, because you've got 5 of them in your spare underwear.
Yeah, right. Comic-Con is really, the Comic-Con organization is really putting in a good effort to make their online presence this year be their primary driver for schedules and whatnot. Now, there's still going to be the paper schedule because not everybody has a smartphone, not everybody has an internet connection that they can go with.
Or if they do have a smartphone, they don't bother using those features.
Right. Now, one thing that I was pleased to see, and part of the reason we've got Jolene on, is to talk about the new web app that actually took precedence this year over the iPhone app. Apparently, now naturally, since it's a web app, it will work on any web browser or mobile web browser that conforms to standards. Obviously, we've tested it on our iPhones, and it works wonderfully. And it has some great features that Jolene is going to be telling us about in a minute here. Also, they put the grid up online this year before the show starts. Oh, that is so nice.
I shall refrain from making any Tron jokes this time.
And it's also color-coded this year.
Oh, my God. They actually splashed out for a few more pennies to actually have color on it.
It's actually
it's grey.
It looks beautiful.
It is a thing of beauty to see, and I mean, if this trend continues to, we could have the best convention on the planet just by virtue of the technical expertise that we're pouring into it. So, Jolene, let's talk a little bit about the web app. Some of the things that you've found that make this just the absolute most gorgeous experience on the planet.
Well, I really like it because you actually can favorite the panels that you would like to go to. Even if you wind up not going to it, it's good to see, oh, well, this panel and that panel overlap. Which one would I rather go to, or which one would I have more of a chance of actually getting into? It's really cool. There's supposed to also be a friends section that is available so you can see your friends' schedules and coordinate. But I haven't figured out how to do that yet. I haven't been able to.
It's great that it's there. It means that they're thinking ahead.
Yeah.
I wonder, just sort of thinking on that, sorry to interrupt, but with that sort of scheduling and things like that, I wonder how long, excuse me, sorry, I had a flu the other day. I wonder how long it would actually take for them to bring in a system so that it can actually help you get from, say, one panel to the next panel in as short a time as possible, and it maybe even have it live updates with it so that it'll be able to see where someone could say where the congestions are. So if you want to skip this part, go to here. Or,
like a traffic? You mean like a traffic map? For
because
GPS system.
That's funny.
Next scheduled panel, you need to walk directly through the portal generated by a gun.
Disregard the screams.
This is Cave Johnson signing off.
Dave Johnson, we're done here.
Well, the thing that I really last year, I really liked the regular app that they had for the iPhone, because you could not only favorite panels, but you could also favorite exhibitor booths. So you wouldn't have to go searching on a map where it is, because there's just those favorites that you bring up, and it's right there.
Yes.
So
pay the people to come here. It is all dependent on how many people favorite them on the iPhone app. So, guys, go steal a few iPhones. We've got to go and make ourselves get loads of money for this.
But you don't need to steal them. Just visit every single Apple store that's near you and use that iPhone.
I'm going to try to get a hold of whoever is doing the app, because it would have been nice to make notes or journal entries, or even be able to save all those favorites, because there were booths that I would have loved to look them up online and get more information, but once ComicCon was over, it went back to doing a countdown to the next ComicCon, and it erased everything.
Yeah.
So I was sad about that, because
for an app that only gets used maybe 3 times a year, because of course there's also WonderCon and Ape, it does remarkably well. Last year I couldn't use the ComicCon app because on my phone it kept crashing and losing data. And when I say losing data, I mean I would be looking at the grid and all of a sudden, hey, half the grid's gone.
But mine,
damn you, Tron!
Mine was fine. Mine worked incredibly well.
For Jolene, it worked wonderfully. For me, it was a terrible experience. However, considering it was a first-generation app, and it worked for the most of the people that used it, that's fucking fantastic. Clearly, somebody knew what they were doing when they designed it. Now, this year, they probably ironed out the problems. There's going to be kinks. There's going to be problems. But if they put even half the effort into the iPhone app in terms of making sure it works for people as they put into the web app, that, of course, anybody with a HTML5 compliant web browser on their phone will be able to use, it's going to be pretty dang good. So let's
must find the text thing and just randomly type things in just to screw everything up, just stick it online, make people come to my site, and that's it. It's the official one.
Right. Let's talk about the programming that's going to be coming up at this Comic-Con. Now, I recognize that the majority of the bunnies that listen to this podcast, if not all of the bunnies except for myself, we're probably not coming to Comic-Con this year. And I do wish that was otherwise. And as always, get your ticket early. Get your ticket even if you don't know for sure if you're going to go. I mean, period. As we're going into this year's Comic-Con, there's going to be a point in the near future where Comic-Con announces on their Twitter feed. By the way, subscribe to their Twitter feed. What is that? Anyways, while I'm looking that up, it's comic_con. So twitter.com/comic_con. They announce every time before they open it up, ticket sales will happen at this time on this day. If you subscribe to that Twitter feed and you make sure you're up to date and you don't have your ticket, either demand was so freaking high that the tickets will have sold out within minutes, or you just didn't get on that in time. Now,
no procrastination here.
Absolutely no procrastination. Once you have that ticket, then you have months at that point to figure out how you're going to get to San Diego. That's going to be the easy part in comparison. So get those tickets first.
I suggest FedExing yourself.
Whatever worked. Even if you have to put yourself into a medically induced coma for the entire trip. There's the hard part, and that's getting the Comic-Con ticket itself. And there's the easy part, which is getting to San Diego, getting housing, etc. There will be places that you can crash here in San Diego. Even if you have to do the Killerfish tokens first year, which is to get a hostel.
A hostel.
Exactly. Not the ideal solution, but it's a place to lay your head at night when you're absolutely exhausted.
And then someone might come and rescue you from the hostel.
Yes. Friendly, nice people who let you stay with them and eat all their food and watch their DVDs.
I'm not saying there's a precedent here.
Not really pay attention to you a lot, so you can go around and do lots of stuff in San Diego.
It worked out.
Not that there's a precedent for that or anything.
In any case, so as my usual advice, just get your ticket first. And if, let's say, you have your ticket and you realize 2 months before Comic-Con rolls around that you're just not going to be able to show, you know what? Comic-Con would love to buy your ticket back from you. They will give you all your money back. They have no problem doing that because they really want to sell it to somebody else.
And there's a whole bunch of people on eBay that might try to go a bit for higher than that too.
Well, you can't do that. You cannot sell it on eBay.
I know, but there is people
that you can be taken to court for that.
I know, but I love when people actually go on there beforehand. You hear people like, I'm going to search on eBay for if there's tickets on there. It's like,
no chance.
There are people from Comic-Con who watch those and send out emails to those people that if they buy the tickets or if they sell those tickets, they can not only be blackballed from ever going to Comic-Con again, or they can also be taken to court. So don't do it through eBay or Craigslist. That is not the way to go.
Yes. Okay, so now that we've admonished you in that way, if you do get your ticket and you're concerned about getting to San Diego, there's ways. Killerfish is our international traveler on this one. We'll plumb his knowledge at a later time, closer to next year's con. But
yes,
when you're here, where you can stay, I would highly suggest that you get a bunch of bunnies together and you have just one dedicated suite. That's going to be a Bunny Suite Beta, Bunny Suite Delta, whatever we decide to call it. This year there's no Bunny Suite. There's barely going to be a BunnyCon because it was just not possible to get the logistics together. Next year, I promise, we'll have a BunnyCon. We'll have activities before the con. We'll have crash time after. It will be awesome. In any case, enough about next year. Let's get back to this year. So let's talk about some of the programming. One thing I'm very pleased to see is they're including Wednesday night, that's preview night, in the grid for things that are going to be happening. I personally suspect that sooner or later, Wednesday is going to be wrapped into Comic-Con, just because that's the only other night that we can possibly squeeze any other time for anything else. Because we've filled up the entire convention hall, we've filled up the hotels around, we've filled up 4 freaking days of activity from 10 a.m. to after midnight. There's nothing else in those 4 days. We got to overflow to another day. So Wednesday's turning into that day. It's sort of the unofficial 5th day. And for this unofficial 5th day, there's open gaming, which is awesome, in the games rooms. For films, we have pretty much the action movies that feature older actors. I personally am kind of hoping to sneak into seeing the film Red, R-E-D, Retired
that is an excellent film.
I have not actually seen it yet because I couldn't see it in the theater because, we have a child. And
I highly
not on
recommend
Netflix.
you go to watch it because John Malkovich plays a really paranoid ex-CIA or whatever agency he's with character. Really funny character. So it's
So basically, any other character since being John Malkovich is what he's playing.
Well, he does his job well.
By being John Malkovich.
Yes. So
Put the bunny down!
let's talk a little bit about Hall H this year. Hall H is, for those who've never been to Comic-Con, that's the big hall. That's the one where if you're attending Comic-Con, you don't go because it's just too freaking active. Jolene, I know you've taken a closer look at the schedule. Let's go to you for a little bit about what's in Hall H.
Oh, well, I haven't been specifically looking at Hall H, but if you do want to look at the app, it will let you go to Hall H and you can see all of the programming just in specific rooms. So if you feel like camping out in 20 or H, or because usually Hall H and Hall 20 are the biggies when it comes to all the programs. Those are the biggest rooms in the convention center.
You're going to get a lot of people going in there.
Right.
Yeah.
This year, the Star Wars Fan Film Festival is in Ballroom 20, which is also the same room that hosts the costume contest, the Masquerade.
Masquerade!
To give everybody an idea, the Twilight Twits are going to be congregating there at, looks like, 11 o'clock for the Twilight Saga Breaking Dawn Part 1 panel. And frankly, I congratulate the scheduling people on that. I'm going to bake them a cake and take it to the first post-Comic-Con meeting just to say thank you for putting the Twilight Twits right off the top so we can get them out of the freaking way. I think we got a pinch.
Yes, I feel that way about Twilight too.
All right, so thank you, dear. I'll take it from here. All right, so in other areas of the grid, if you will, we have there's costuming with Sabrina the Belly Dancer. Yeah. I don't imagine she's doing much belly dancing, but belly dancers have a very specific and unique set of costuming requirements that happen to very closely match up with Comic-Con costuming requirements. I.e., you may be showing a lot of skin, you may have your costume in weird configurations that look like it's going to fall off your body at any moment. So, it's frankly a fairly natural transition. Another thing about the grid, they've reformatted it so that one day will fit on 2 pages side by side, as opposed to the landscape they did previously, which necessitated a very weird break in the way the day was arranged. The way it is now, it's like you can read right to left, or left to right rather, from start of the day to the end of the day, all the way up to 12 at night, and it's very, very well laid out.
One side question, just because you're saying that, does it actually say in there, have a sandwich in its guide? Because that's what they did with Smash.
Have a sandwich?
They actually put a time aside at around midday saying, now have a sandwich.
Wow.
You're not on mic there. Yeah,
your people actually take consideration for people who go in there and say...
Yeah, no, this Comic-Con, that's not what Comic-Con's about. You bring your stuff if you need food without taking a break for it. Fortunately, the convention hall is not allowed to actually dig into your bag to remove any contraband food items, because they want you to buy the terrible, terrible convention food. Oh, God, it's bad.
What do you've got drugs here, but those are a bit my medication I need or else I die. But it's a legal substance, so it's going to be taken away.
So there is a block, and where did it go? Here we are. In Hall 6 BC and F. It's weird how they combine those rooms. But Hall BCF, between, looks like 3:30 and 6 is pretty much the Star Wars time on Thursday. And the Star Wars Fan Movie Awards. Oh my goodness, if there is one thing you should be doing on Thursday night at Comic-Con, it is attending the Star Wars Fan Movie Awards.
Yes.
It is so awesome to see these First off, it's a great community experience. You get to be with all these other fans of the Star Wars franchise, and whether you like from the Star Wars the original Star Wars films, or you hate the Star Wars films, or you're just there because it's a nice big air conditioned hall, you're going to have a great time because it's a great community atmosphere. Second, this is genuinely fan awards. These are awards granted. Hi, Freya. These are awards granted to these films by the fan audience and by George Lucas himself. Now, George Lucas is getting up there in years, and he's starting to be that rambling old man.
How many does it take to push him up there this time?
Well, he only ever appears in a pre-recorded form, so it's very easy for them to take the rambling and edit it down, but you can tell they've done so.
I thought you were going to say that he only ever appears as a hologram.
Well, because of the edited, obviously, the people at Comic-Con have altered the terms of his agreement.
Well, it really is a really fun show, and they have really awesome awards for those who have won the awards. It's a huge trophy of C-3PO and R2-D2, and C-3PO is holding a thing of popcorn. and they have this every year every other year at Comic-Con, and it is just so fun. And the last time we went, there was one guy who won 2 awards, the fan favorite and the George Lucas pick, for his amazing film called Pitching Lucas, and I highly recommend looking that up. It's Really,
it is funny as hell. It's on YouTube.
But anyway,
Everything's on YouTube nowadays.
yeah.
Until it gets pulled because of copyright claims, like for instance Lady Gaga for her own stuff.
I know.
Well, anyway, back to ComicCon. That same night, there's like a whole bunch of things all at the same time as the Star Wars Fan Film Festival.
Yeah.
Penn and Teller are going to be doing a show there because they're going to be starting a show on the Discovery Channel called Penn and Teller Tell a Lie. And it's kind of a Mythbuster-ish kind of show, but you have to decide which one is the lie, because they're doing all these proving whatever urban myth, but you have to decide which one they're lying about. There's also Dr. Horrible's sing-along blog.
Yes, if you can't make it into the Star Wars Fan Film Awards, because, frankly, it is going to be crowded, go to see Dr. Horrible's sing-along blog. You've got a couple great options right there at the same block of time. And if you are one of those really emo people that just feels like you need some motivation to cut yourself, Torchwood Miracle Day episode 103 is going to be airing between 9:30 and 10:30.
No, I've sort of turned off from Torchwood nowadays.
Really?
Yeah, so have I.
It was okay to start with, and then it just kind of petered off into a direction that I don't really like anymore.
Like I said, it's the emo younger cousin to the cool uncle Doctor Who.
Well, just so you don't get disappointed, it is not the entire episode. It's a sneak peek into the episode of the Miracle Day, Dead of Night.
Okay, let's.
I was going to say that with Torchwood, I find it funny is that some of the old fans, they don't like it because it's the new version of Torchwood has gotten rid of the gay. They don't like it losing that. They don't like it being serious now.
And there's more Torchwood stuff and Doctor Who stuff throughout the convention. Almost every single day there's something either Torchwood or Doctor Who-ish going on.
Yeah, because they're going to have a panel there as well.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, Friday morning, Torchwood, Miracle Day panel. Yeah.
Okay. Well,
and
yes, and we're going to get to that.
H.
We're going to get to that. For the anime schedule, the anime staff for Comic-Con have done a really good job of selecting some new stuff that you may not have heard of before, as well as some of the classics and some of the more popular stuff. For instance, Bleach is going to be there. We've got Slayer's Evolution R. We've got The Melancholy of, I can never say this right, Haruhi-chan Suzumiya.
That show.
Yes, that show.
That show that I've never watched.
The one where everybody says she's got godlike powers, and I can never actually sit down and watch enough to find out what exactly the deal is with that. There's, of course...
Wikipedia is your answer for that if you're really that gay.
Pretty much. And the films have... the films in the Marriott have got a good selection of some nice indie films. And Comic-Con Film School 101 at 10 o'clock in the morning. Moving on to Friday. Let's see, this is the day that you said was the Torchwood thing, right? Yeah, Torchwood Miracle Day, right at the start, which is good because I want to get my depressing, nasty, bad ending stuff out of the way right away so I can move on to the more fun stuff.
Hey,
they're getting the Twilight and the Torchwood stuff out of the way quickly.
What was that, Jolene?
Well, you seem to be co-op. You are taking over all of this Comic-Con stuff and not letting me talk.
Okay,
you're moving on to other things, and
this is the Bunnycast, dear. You steamroll each other. That's how it goes. Go on.
Yes.
Yeah, but I'm not a bunny.
I was going to say, Homer, you've actually squatted her.
No! Go on, dear.
So if we are on Friday, Big Bang Theory, who I don't know if you have it over there in Australia or England. Big Bang Theory is a wonderful show about geeks for geeks. And the cast and people who made the show will be doing a panel and a Q&A session, which should be quite hilarious. There's also Warehouse 13 panel on Friday. And also, I don't know how many of you out there have ever heard of Thundercats.
Sounds a bit familiar.
It's an 80s cartoon that was on for a while, and they're reimagining it and releasing it.
Must have been a very small show. I barely remember what that was about. Could you tell us a bit more about this so-called Thundercats?
Killerfish.
Thundercats! Woo!
Oh right, yes, that show. The one with the spandex.
I'm just curious. I'm just curious with this Thundercats when they bring it out, if it's still going to have the people making the racism claim about it. And the reason why they're making a racist claim for the new Thundercats version is because they don't have the black character. Who's the black character? Pantho. The reason why he's not in there yet is because they're saving him. That's basically what they've said. But the people claiming that it's racist that they're not showing it are saying the only reason they're saying that is because he's not in it. I'm going with what the people are saying. He's showing up later when they're saving him because he's a fan favorite.
No, I'm sorry,
just
ever
mocking
since
the
that
idiots.
fan-produced quote trailer, close quote, for Thundercats that had Vin Diesel as Panthro, I just can't imagine anybody else being Panthro.
Not even Rod Fox?
There's also a group of... there's the artists that do Magic the Gathering are going to be doing a panel about the cards and stuff like that. Sci-Fi in the evening is going to be doing Eureka, Haven, and Mercury Man.
So no science fiction, of course.
Yeah. And I know Chris and some of you out there really loved the worst cartoons ever.
Oh, yeah. Where was that? Where is it? I don't see it.
It is toward the last part of Friday from 9 to 10 in rooms 6B, C, and F.
To this day, I still do not understand why some of the people who went to a certain Comic-Con giggle so much when they do a certain move over their head with their arms.
Oh my god.
See, I don't know what that joke is about. I missed out. So I'm imploring everybody who is going to go to Comic-Con, don't miss out on these moments because they're massive in-jokes for later on in life. And
Oh, geez, excuse me.
So, did you have any more to add about Friday, Chris?
Let's see. I don't think I did, because the worst cartoons ever. You have to see that. You just cannot not see it. It's too good. Do not miss it. And if you need to see the Comic-Con exclusive world premiere Batman Year One, skip it. Because they're doing an encore screening later on at 10:30, it looks like. And so you can duck out of worst cartoons ever at 10 o'clock and go straight to the encore screening of Batman Year One. Let's see. I don't think there's anything else.
So we can move on to Saturday?
No ponies yet. That's kind of
I'm just doing a quick check. They got the other ones. Oh, because I got something that's got some ones they're pointing out. They're pointing out there's a Walking Dead for the fans of that. Ballroom 20, 11:15 a.m.
For Friday.
Yep. Venture Brothers will have a panel at the Indigo Ballroom at the Hilton San Diego Bayfront. Yes. Same time, 11:45. So if you're a big Venture Brothers fan, go see that.
So, yep. One of the things that's interesting this year is, even though Lost has been over, the series Lost has at least 3 or 4 panels going on. They have a panel almost every day of recap stuff and where the characters are now, even though the series is over.
Still on the island.
But anyway, on Saturday morning, I don't know how many of you know who Deepak Chopra is, but he's a guru on spiritual and physical healing, and his son is actually one of the big producers for what's it called? Virgin Comics. And so Deepak Chopra has been at the last 4 or 5 Comic-Cons, and his panel is usually discussing the 7 spiritual laws of superheroes. And now he's coming out with a book called The 7 Spiritual Laws of Superheroes. And so Saturday morning he's going to have his panel discussion that he's had the last several years, but probably also promoting the book that's come out.
So, Saturday, before we get to the obvious thing, I just wanted to point out that there's a couple of returning features about Comic-Con, including the panel Comic Book Law School. For those who have not attended Comic-Con before, Comic Book Law School is a fantastic panel given generally every year by the same lawyer. He has brought in some assistant lawyers that will comment on things that he may not have direct experience with. But basically he talks about comic book law, everything that goes into the creation of a comic book legally, all the ways that you can cover your bases to make sure that when you create a character, it's protected under your name, etc. All the way in through, I need to sell my character to a major studio, and so that they can work on it and I can work on something else.
I should point out, at least under American law.
Oh yeah, it is an American law thing. But if you are in America, or even you're visiting from another country but you happen to pay a lot of attention to American entertainment, this panel is a must. Even if you just consume, you never produce any sort of comics or film or anything like that, because this series will answer so many questions about, well, why can't Batman do a official movie crossover tie-in with Indiana Jones? to grab a name out of thin air. It's just really good to attend. So, Jolene, you want to talk with me about the Masquerade?
Oh, well, Masquerade is really a great show, a costume contest. And it's going to be competing this year. At the very same time, well, almost exact same time, Mythbusters is going on. So that's
what times are those?
Mythbusters starts at 7:45 p.m. and goes to 8:45, and the Masquerade starts at 8:30, but you have to be in line way ahead of that to actually get a good seat.
Yeah, the line generally opens up at around, noon, you think?
Something like that.
Yeah, for the Masquerade. It will wrap around the building. It has wrapped around the building. The thing to keep in mind about the Masquerade is that you don't necessarily have to get into Hall 20, which is where the Masquerade is actually held, because there is an overflow in rooms 5AB and room 6.
Also, under the sales, there's also
that
broadcast.
That's the Comic-Con International Masquerade Party, and that actually goes until 1:30 in the morning. That can be fun if you like, thumping bass and dancing and all that kind of thing while you have the Masquerade playing on a screen in the background.
And also not sleeping.
And also not sleeping, yes. Now, as for myself, I will be working the Comic-Con Masquerade as usual this year. So I'm not going to be able to go to anything else starting at least 5 o'clock, if not earlier. So, anything else about the Masquerade you wanted to mention, dear?
That it's very creative. You'd be amazed what some people come up with that, when they're coming out with costumes that have working parts and people in them that it look like it popped right out of the cartoons. It's just amazing. There was one guy who 2 years in a row got some pretty big prizes. One year he was Mojo Jojo and the Mojo Jojo mech. So it was actually one person as Mojo Jojo, and the person crawled into the costume and person set up for the mech, and they were walking together. And the year before that, he was also the Bill from Schoolhouse Rock, the I'm Just a Bill. And for those who are from other countries, Schoolhouse Rock was an after-school special with musical education cartoons, and very musical, very, very good at helping kids remember how to do things like conjunctions or math or history. And I'm Just a Bill was Hi, Freya. Hi. I'm Just a Bill was a scroll of paper that was set up to it was supposed to look like a bill from what's going to be passed into law, and it's telling the story of how a bill becomes a law, or what if it gets vetoed, what happens then. And it's a really fun way of learning how that whole process works. And there are so many fans of this. It's like everyone was screaming because it was like such a fun thing. But anyway,
Simpsons also did a cover of it themselves.
Really?
Yes, their one was basically more because there was someone did right because they felt that was too left wing. So the joke is that it was more of a right wing interpretation of it. So the bill was to weaken the American Constitution type joke. It's I can't remember what season or what episode.
It sounds like somebody's digging too deep.
Yeah, for sure. We were talking about costumes, not politics. I was talking about just explaining where this character came from for those of you who have no idea about Schoolhouse Rock. Anyway.
Yeah, and I was just pointing out they had the Simpsons did their own cover of it as a joke because they were big fans of the show.
Anyway, back to ComicCon.
Yes, no Simpsons.
Also, that same evening is the Star Wars Trivia Game Show. I've never been to that, but it sounds fun.
Well, let's move on to Sunday because we do have to wrap things up for this segment of the show. Because I was looking at the ones that are actually going to be on at Saturday. Some of the panels that might be of interest to people if they're interested. Apparently, Terra Nova, if anyone wants to find out much on that show, that's got a panel at 11 on that day at Ballroom 20. Futurama, 12:15 to 1 o'clock, Ballroom 20. And if anyone wants to see the insanity of Futurama, it's basically that because they're going to have Matt Groening, David X. Groen, Billy West, Katie Seagal, Joe DiMaggio, and Maurice LaMarche will all be basically on stage. And if you've ever heard the commentary for a Futurama episode, you will know exactly what happens when you get the voice actors in the same room together. There's also Josh Whedon's got a panel, which is basically him going to be talking about Buffy. Expect that to be the last time ever. And the one that also might be interesting, the last Airbender panel, because they're bringing out for the new TV series.
Mm-hmm. There's also going to be on that day the Knights of Badassum in Hall H.
Okay, now everybody, when I say that we're running overtime, we are running overtime. So let's go ahead and try to wrap this up. Let's talk about Sunday a little bit.
Hello.
Hi, sorry about that. I didn't notice you had dropped off. For Sunday, we have this is the kids' day. So there's many panels that are specifically geared towards children, as well as the entirety of the San Diego International Children's Film Festival. It's we put on Freya's favorite show, so she's singing.
Okay.
Now, for the adults, normally Sunday is the decompressed day where there isn't a whole lot of big name superstar type shows or events happening on the grid. Normally, they have on Sunday Glee, Castle, Supernatural, Doctor Who, The Cleveland Show, Merlin, Cartoon Voices 2, the Keen Spot panel. Let's see, what else have they...
Jim Henson Company.
Oh, Jim Henson Company, thank you, dear.
Axe Cop.
Axe Cop, for those of you who aren't familiar, we did a review on it. Watchmen, 25 years later. Starship Smackdown, which is the usual end of show thing that we do.
500 First Costuming.
I mean, we are talking, don't expect to get any sleep until Sunday night. I mean, there's just going to be so much this year. The good stuff is spilled over to Sunday. You're not going to be able to just chill out and relax.
Talking to people who've come from Europe over to San Diego, you're probably not going to be sleeping well anyway till about Monday morning anyway. So, hey, what's a screwed up sleep rhythm anyway?
Exactly. For those,
embrace the pain is all I can say.
For those who have visited Comic-Con before and have been to the Sunday traditional Starship Smackdown, I can genuinely say that you're probably not missing much if you skip out on Starship Smackdown once every so often. So, if you don't go to Starship Smackdown, I would recommend going to Comic-Con Talkback. That's where you get to voice your opinion as to what has happened with Comic-Con and say, I like this was really good, or this was bad, this needs work. As with everything that where you're providing good feedback, don't just say, this sucked, man. Say, this really negatively impacted my experience. I was expecting this, I got this. Maybe you could do this in the future. Don't just be that stupid whiner that gets up at every single thing that comes along and whines and moans and complains with absolutely nothing constructive to submit. Think about what you're saying. Think about what it takes to run a major convention, because they do pay attention to what goes on in this panel. This is not just a bitch panel. This is when you notice something has happened that needs to be different in the future, because this is very obviously something that needs to be different. This is where you go to address that. And as usual, for any sort of post-show feedback, don't say, oh, on Thursday night, I saw this person in the hall doing this, and no, I didn't catch any names, I didn't take any pictures, I didn't know what was going on necessarily, but I saw this and I thought it was a bad thing that was happening. So you can't do anything about it now, but I'm going to complain about it just because now I have a microphone. Don't do that. That's stupid.
On Friday, I almost got ran over by Stan Lee.
Yeah, don't complain about Stan Lee either. Stan Lee's the boss.
No, he's not a boss, but he does have a lifetime membership with Comic-Con.
No, he's the boss, like Bruce Springsteen is the boss.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so we've got a kiddo that probably needs her lunch and to go take a nap. We've got a podcast that is now running at least 15 minutes over. And
that's not that much.
We've got a part 2 to get to, and I've got to get some food, or the energy drink is going to cause my intestines to eat themselves.
I've got some noodles to make in the microwave.
So let's go ahead and take our break right now. And Jolene, you can stay for the next segment if you want, or you can cut out. That's up to you.
Okay. Thank you.
Everybody else, stick around. We'll be right back. Bunnycast is a production of the Bunnycast Network. The opinions of the guests and hosts are their own and do not necessarily reflect those of the network. Because of Your Grace is a production of Seth Jeffrey and is used without permission. Dies Nox et Omnia is an OC remix by Danielle Messina, Josh Welchel, and Ryan C. Connolly, and is available on ocremix.org. Atamen consulite per poster honor, Atamen consulite per poster honor. Dies nox et omnia mici sunt con